to everyone present. It's an honor to welcome you all to this exciting and enriching event, the MASQ Writing Seminar, where we gather to ignite the spark of creativity, hone our writing skills, and learn from seasoned professionals. It's a pleasure to have esteemed members of MASQ and all the participants with us today. We are especially grateful for the presence of our distinguished guests, including our chairman, Mr. Abdulrakib Akiyemi Saab, who is the Sadar, Majlis Kudam Ahmadiyya, Nigeria, and our honored speakers, Hafiz Yunus Omotayo Saab, who was a one-time chairman, MASQ, and Malam Abbas Agdaji Saab, who is the current chairman for MASQ. So we have an exciting and thought-provoking line of activities with two impactful lectures, insightful question and answer sessions, and special guest remark. By the grace of God, this seminar will close with closing remarks and a prayer. So I would say that we'll make the most of today and take away valuable lessons from the wealth of knowledge that will be shared. And at this point, I would like to invite the esteemed chairman, Mr. Abdulrakib Akiyemi Saab, to lead us in the opening prayer, following which we'll take the chairman's address and continue with the rest of the program. And lastly, we apologize once again for the little delay that we experienced, and I promise that we are assuring you that the rest of the program will continue in an orderly and timely manner.
All right, Jazakallah khairan. Dear respected brothers, please let us pray. Surah Al-Fatiha wa Darud. Ameen. Jazakumullah khairan. Jazakumullah.
Thank you for that prayer. And now I want to introduce our first speaker, who is Al-Hafiz Yunus Omotayo. So our first lecture is titled Building Blocks of Effective Writing, Sentences, Paragraphs, and Conversational Style. We are incredibly fortunate to have Al-Hafiz Yunus Omotayo with us. He's an expert in the field and currently office manager at MKA-NIGERIA. He's worth of experience in writing and communication with of our valuable insight to our midst. Jazakumullah. Have you started on the call?
Yeah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you for following us. So I'll take pleasure to introduce the next lecturer, who is going to take us through a practical guide to writing poetry. So we are delighted to ask Nigeria, and is also going to guide us through this. Malam Abbas, Jazakumullah. You can please sit Taslim to our audience, sir.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khairan for honoring us. So I will leave the rest of the program to our respected chairman, because I'll be inviting him to take his chairman. He wants to take, to humbly mention that the rest of the program will be coordinated by our respected chairman, while I will be on standby to come in at any time when necessary. Is that
All right.
كل
Jazakallah
خير.
khair.
السلام عليكم
Respected.
ورحمة الله.
Wa alaikum wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair. Respected brother Hakim sir. بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I think the next on the program is chairman's opening remark, which my humble self would do. Let me do that. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم عبده ورسوله. أما بعد، أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. آمين. Beloved, particularly starting with the respected chairman, Majlis Ansar Sultan and Kolam, Malam Abbas Luashim Agbaje Saab, the former chairman MASQ, Al-Hafiz, Yunus Amatara Sahib, and all the executive members of the MASQ Nigeria, and all members of the Pamela, the Majlis Kudam on the call, all our brothers and sisters on the call, all members of the Salah, Tajna Imaila, Kudam Lamadia that will be on the call. I say once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's my pleasure to be with us this moment to chair this particular very important event. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it a very blessed one, inshallah al-aziz. It's an honor to join the intellectuals to discussing some of the important things that will help us in this age and time. In this age that we are in, Islam is often misrepresented and wrongly equated with violence. And there is need for us to reclaim the true identity of Islam as a faith and religion rooted in peace. And that is very important that we do. I believe that this seminar in particular will raise our pen in service of truth. And it is important that we all join to revive the message of peace, purpose, and power through the written word, which is actually the theme of this particular event, which is wielding the sword of pen. So we have very important discussions to this evening with two different scholars, two eminent personalities whom we know that they are very good at writing. Where we'll be having the first one, which is the building blocks of effective writing, sentences, paragraph, and conversational style, which is to be handled by respected Al-Hafiz Amatara Saab, and our amiable chairman, respected Malam Abbas Abaji, speaking to the second one, which has to do with emotion to expression and a practical guide to writing poetry. I want to invite all of us to listen attentively, carefully to all the events, all the proceedings at this very important program. It's important that we all unite in the jihad of the pen spirit to defend our faith and inspire minds and spread peace through purposeful writing. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easy for us all. So on this note, I want to thank all of us for participating and joining this session. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless it for all of us. Jazakumullah khairan azan jaza. The next item would be the first lecture, which will be done by respected Al-Hafiz Yunus Matar Sahib, the office manager, Muslim Television Ahmadiyya Nigeria Studio, on the topic building blocks of effective writing, sentences, paragraphs, and conversational style. Respected Al-Hafiz, please, Bismillah. With the time that is stipulated here, Hafiz, I think you have 50 minutes. 50 minutes, but if you can manage the time, how to spend up to that, we appreciate it. Jazakallah.
Barakallah, respected Sada. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, absolutely. I expect to spend up the time that has been allotted for this topic. I don't expect we take up to that much, 50 minutes. Could be so much or too much. Of course, it is a topic I believe is so straightforward. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, definitely, sir.
Yes, officer, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, Jazakallah khairan. Firstly, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalam ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Respected Sada Sahib, respected the chairman, MASQ Nigeria, respected honorary and active members of MASQ Nigeria, and everyone who has also joined this program. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh once again.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, I consider it a great honor, and I feel humbled to have been invited to share some thoughts on the topic building blocks of effective writing, sentences, paragraphs, and conversational style. Move on. I have humbly requested Brother Abdul Qadir Ola Abdul Qadir Sahib to kindly help me share my screen. I mean the presentation on the screen so that participants can follow. Yeah, Jazakallah khairan. I would also request if the host can instruct or maybe mute participants so that all this noise coming from participants can be well managed. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me now? I've just been asked to unmute myself.
We can hear you, sir. Please go ahead.
I was just asked to unmute myself. I didn't know I have been muted. Okay. Yeah. In the business of writing, a major concern of any objective writer is the challenge of delivering write-ups that not only reflect powerful expressions and impressions, but also project qualitative presentations that are capable of communicating meaning and understanding, inspiring conviction, influencing minds, and eliciting positive responses or feedbacks from the readers. So the fact is that many writers, they write either to express or impress, and we have those who manage to combine both of them. They write to express facts, express a point, and also impress these facts and points in the minds of people. So it's great to achieve an expressive and impressive presentation, whether in writing or in speech. But more to that, to also project qualitative presentations that are capable of communicating meaning and understanding, that are capable of inspiring conviction, and also influence minds of readers. However, to be able to successfully surmount this challenge that every writer faces, every writer must be ever ready to provide viable answers to each of these questions. And of course, they are simple questions. What to write, when to write, how to write, and why. These are posters that are quite germane for everyone that wants to deliver a qualitative, impressive, and expressive, and even influential write-ups. What to write, it's concerned about the ideas that one is to present, the facts, the key points that one is to present to people, to convey meaning and understanding to them, to convince them, to inspire them, and to influence them, and also get positive response. Every writer faces the challenge of defining what to write, generating the ideas. But that is not the focus of our subject today. Another one is when to write. It is very important to define, to identify the appropriate time to write that you can, that the audience can consider that write-up or that speech as being timely, as being apt. So it is very important that we define or identify the appropriate time to write on what a topic. More to that, we also have to look at how to write. For a successful writer, the question is not just what to write. It is not just to be concerned with when to write, but most importantly, how to write. Because having identified what to write, the ideas having generated, then the points and the facts and the supportive evidences. These are just one concern. This is just a concern, of course, that is very important. But most importantly, or more importantly, I should say, is how to write these points, these facts, how to present these supportive evidences, and so on. That is a very important question that every writer faces and must respond to, must answer. And I continue by saying that of this seemingly intriguing flurry of posters, to interrogate and explore the building blocks of effective writing is to seek to answer the question of how to write. So the subject matter of today is an attempt to seek to interrogate that question of how to write and also to respond to it. What are the building blocks of effective writing? How do we craft effective sentence, build powerful paragraphs, and exploit conversational writing style? So the thrust of our exercise today is to attempt and project answers to this question. But before we delve into the answers to these questions, if Brother Abdul Qadir Sahib can scroll down the last page, while preparing this lecture, I visited the website of MASQ. Please go to that is second to the last page, the penultimate one, where we have endnotes, where we have a sample of paragraphing from MASQ's website. What I did is just to have a survey of some of the write-ups that have been published on MASQ's website, and randomly look at them to see, just have some samples of the published articles there, as regarding, how the writers have made use or effectively used sentences and also paragraphs, and also the style. The sample we have here, of course, the name of the writer is not shown. This is just to give a sample of the analysis, to give us a sense of direction in our analysis, and also the answers, the presentation that we'll be having later, so that we can be more objective and also practical, particularly because we are not just English students who are learning how to write in the classroom. This is beyond that. We are dealing with a guild that is a literary guild that seeks to communicate to the world. So our business is mass communication. It is not learning English like students learning how to use sentence, use of English as we have in the higher institutions, the use of sentence, paragraphs, and so on. Beyond this, our prime objective, is that we are engaging in mass communications as members of Muslim Writers Guild. And so we understand that by virtue of engaging in mass communication, we have readers, we have audience who are scattered, who are large and heterogeneous. And because of this, we understand we are speaking to millions of audience. In fact, just a few time ago, when I visited MASQ website, and I checked one of my earliest articles published by Muslim Writers Guild of Nigeria, I was surprised to find out that over 30,000 viewers, readers have viewed that particular write-up. And so that means that we are actually engaging in mass communication, and therefore we are into serious business, not just a classroom mentality of a student learning English language. So that's why to be more practical, I have visited the website and so to get some of the articles that have been published there, and take a look at some of the samples of paragraphs, use of paragraphs and sentences in these articles. So, for example, here in the sample, the first sample here, we have a paragraph here that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. We have an opening paragraph of an article that spans 18 lines. In my humble view, this opening paragraph is extremely too long, and it should have been divided appropriately, it is not ideal that an article should open with a paragraph that is of this length. We could have had something as much as 30 paragraphs from this single paragraph. And the essence is that to ensure that we do not discourage our readers, to ensure that we retain our readers. And so, as writers, we have to take note of this. And also, as editors of these articles, it is also important that we take note of this. So, because before these articles are published, they have gone through the editorial touches of our editors, and therefore, we have to ensure that why writers ensure that they write properly and also use sentences and also paragraphs properly. Our editors also must ensure that articles do not just escape through when they are this kind of or they are made up of this kind of long paragraphs, which can somehow discourage our readers. Of course, the points that have been raised in these paragraphs, they are so powerful, and the use of language, the grammar also are also commendable. But in terms of paragraphing, I think it falls short. And when you scroll down to the last page, we also have another sample there. That is sample 2. In this place, you will see some disjointed sentences or paragraphs. It is not, we don't have a long paragraph here, but paragraphs that are, for example, when you look at the second paragraph, where it begins with obedience to Khilafat Ahmadiyya offers a solution. The Quran commands believers to obey Allah, His Messenger, and those in authority. The Khalifa as the spiritual successor to that is where the paragraph ends. So you can see that there is a disjoint here. The Khalifa as the spiritual successor to the promised Messiah. This one, the promised Messiah, begins a new paragraph, whereas the thought that is being expressed in the previous paragraph has not logically completed. So that is not a good way of paragraphing. And when you also read down the next paragraph, you also see that such organized system, the next paragraph begins with such organized system that mirrors the early Khulafa Rashidin, that is the rightly guided Khilafah. That's the same a phrase, but look at it. It is we don't know which one is the topic sentence, which one is the closing sentence. It's just a single sentence, but you would discover that it is actually an isolated sentence that should have formed part of the preceding paragraph. So when you go downward as well, you will see the same thing that has been done here. Of course, there are beautiful write-ups with in terms of points, in terms of facts that have been expressed, but in terms of paragraphing and structure, there are rooms for improvement in this case. So please let us, Brother Abdul Saib, let us go back to the beginning so that we dive deep into the presentation. Yes, we have the topic building blocks of effective writing, sentences, paragraphs, and conversational style. So we begin with taking a look at crafting effective sentences. And they are very simple structures. Simple things points that we are to take a look at here. The first one is clarity. And as simple as clarity, it just simply implies that you should make sure your sentence is clear and easy to understand. This is very simple, but in terms of application, one may get challenged as to practically using a clarity of expression in crafting sentences. But it is very clear, simple, clarity. Make sure your sentence is clear and easy to understand. Don't mix up things. Don't be so much concerned with verbiage that, okay, I want to use this verb. I like this now. The meaning is so great. I have to see how I can use it. And at the end of it all, you make it so that it's no more understandable. And the essence of writing, of that write-up, is defeated, is not achieved. The objective is not achieved. So in a very straightforward message, make your sentence to be clear and easy to understand. Use simple English, especially when you have not gained mastery of use of big vocabs. I know in Nigeria, we are so much concerned about using big words, vocabs that send many people to back to classrooms or even consulting dictionaries. Of course, it is also, in some respect, it is good to use some words that are big so that readers can also be challenged to seek to know the meanings of new words. But for people who have a very clear objective, particularly of conveying the message of Islam, to influence minds and also to let people gain a conviction and understanding of the message of Islam, we have to be as clear, as simple, and as easy in our presentation, ensuring that we imbibe even the techniques, the skills which Allah Himself has displayed in the Holy Quran in many places as we read beautiful verses of the Quran. And whether you are literate or whether you are somebody of higher learning or intellect or just ordinary readers, you get the message from the Holy Quran. That is how our write-up should be. That overall we achieve the purpose of our writing, such that those who are highly educated, when they read it, they appreciate it, and those who are less educated, when they read it, they also appreciate our presentation. Next one is variety. That is, we have to vary sentence length and structure, make it simple, compound, and complex to keep writing engaging. We have to vary the length of our sentence and also the structure. Sometimes one word can be a word and also a full sentence, depending on what you want to convey and how you want to convey it. Sometimes when we are grappling with the challenge of expressing something that is complicated, that can make us have a long sentence based on our ability to find the exact word, that appropriate word to use. Sometimes we may have challenge finding that, and that we necessitate we using a long expression to express a point. But in that case, we may be having some compound expression, sentence, or let me say complex. But most importantly, we have to ensure that our sentence are simple. Well, compound sentence demands that or requires or reflect that we use parentheses. And many people, they don't actually know or understand the usage of parentheses. But when you realize that you don't have the capacity to use parentheses, it is better you keep your sentence short. Begin with an expression. Make sure that a phrase it is properly and it properly ends with a full meaning a statement. Then end it with a full stop. Begin another sentence without the need to use semicolon to create a parenthetical sentence. So because of the time, I had promised not to use up to 40 minutes allotted to me. And I think the topic itself warrants that it should not be prolonged. So we move on to the next one. That is descriptive language. That's simple. Show, don't tell. Use descriptive language. So when you are writing, you are showing what you want your readers to see, not to hear. Because when you are writing, you are communicating to the eye, not the ears, because they are not going to listen to what you have written. They are going to read it. So they're going to use eyes to read. And so you can convey your message in the best manner by using descriptive language to show them what you want them to see and not to tell them. Next is conciseness. Keep your sentences concise and to the point. Don't prolong it by too much, verbiage. Everything gets prolonged, elongated, and many people will not get the actual message you want to pass. Next is structure. Use a logical structure, such as subject, verb, object. That is a elementary way of structuring a sentence. And the fact is that one has to start at a certain level. As we write on and on, then we will have more capacity to use a sentence in a more complex manner. The next one is grammar. Let us ensure that we use proper grammar, punctuation, and also spelling. Ensure that your spelling are well okay. You have to confirm and reconfirm again. And sometimes when you see that you have used American style of spelling, ensure that throughout that particular write-up, it is American. And if it is British, ensure that it is British. The use of punctuation as well, comma, full stop, they are very important because any wrong use of a comma, for example, can change the meanings or the implications of that particular sentence. So next one is active voice versus passive voice. Simply, when you are writing, when you are actually communicating, and when you are active in your voice, then it projects, it projects that the force, the timeliness, and that it is active, that as if that thing is taking shape presently, as if it is an ongoing event or reality. It is not a past event. And so that is why it is always a good to use active voice. We can see it. We can see it. We can feel it. We are feeling it. Instead of saying it was felt by us, when you say we are feeling it, we felt it, or it was felt by us, that is passive, but we felt it. That is active, even though it is a past, yet it is active. I mean, it brings some sort of urgency into it. The next one is avoid ambiguity and confusion. Don't confuse yourself or don't be ambiguous with the use of words that convey meaning that are susceptible of different meanings and implications. It is always good to use simple words that are straightforward and will not lead your readers to read meanings that you did not intend to be read into your writings, because writers always face the challenge of writing and passing the meaning behind what you have written, successfully passing it to the people. The meaning you have in mind may be different from the meaning that will be read into it. But if you successfully use words that are not ambiguous, then there is probability that your readers will get the exact meaning that you intended to convey to them. So simply, that is about a sentence, crafting sentences for a powerful write-up. Next is building paragraphs. In building paragraphs, it is gratifying that you adopt topic sentence. That is, you start with a clear topic sentence. That particular paragraph, you open it with a statement of fact. Then, before you go on with the body of that paragraph, I think we will still get to that where we talk of introduction, body, and a conclusion. But every paragraph must begin with a topic sentence, a sentence that shows that you want that indicates the fact you want to establish in that particular paragraph. The key point you want to express in that paragraph. That particular paragraph should begin with that topic sentence as a statement of fact, of point. That is what is meant, simply meant by topic sentence. So instead of, as we say in Nigeria, beating about the bush, go straight to that topic sentence, lay it, and then move on to the supportive facts or whatever you may want to present in that particular paragraph to support the topic sentence in terms of examples or other evidences. Next is unity. Focus on one main idea per paragraph. This is very important. Focus on one main idea per paragraph, especially nowadays that our write-ups are published online, and many people have so many things to read. But when they are engaged with your write-ups and everything is flowing in the paragraph, they take a very short paragraph of 2, 3, 4 lines. Within that, they get the main idea and they focus on it, they appreciate it. But when you have one paragraph and you have packed it up with 4, 5 ideas, it may not retain your readers or enable your reader to actually identify the key point or the main idea and also appreciate that. So next one is coherence. Use transitional words and phrases to connect ideas. Therefore, more importantly, more so, and so on. I don't want to take much time. These are straightforward and simple to understand key points, I believe, bullet points that we can actually grasp and also appreciate. Next one is organization. Use an effective logical paragraph structure, such as introduction, body, and conclusion. That is what I was referring to the other time. When you open your paragraph with a topic sentence, then that is the introduction of the key idea, the key point you want to establish in that paragraph. So after that, you move on to the body of that paragraph, and that is talking of the supportive evidences and also examples that you want to use to establish, to support the topic sentence, the main idea which you have expressed in the opening of the paragraph. Then it is also good to close a paragraph such that the readers would realize that the idea you began in the opening in the beginning of the paragraph has ended with that with the ending of that paragraph. That will be so beautiful because they will be able to catch the whole idea and note it accordingly. So the next one is a topic sentence. I think that is a repetition. Sorry. Then we have supporting details. Provide evidence and examples to support your point. It is very important to in the building of a powerful paragraph. And next one, we have headings and subheadings. Sometimes, most of us, we submit write-ups that looks write-ups that look more or less like a sermon, a Friday sermon or whatever sermon that somebody delivers, that you begin with a quotation of the Holy Quran, Quranic verses or hadith, then you continue by writing the whole thing from the beginning to the end. There is no after the heading you have given it throughout the write-up, there is no subheadings. This becomes so bored in the depth, and so many people may not be able to retain their interest to read through the write-ups from the beginning to the end. However, when you create subheadings for your write-up, use clear and concise headings and subheadings in your write-up. When you create such subheadings, it makes it more lively, and also readers will be retained to continue to want to know what is next under that subheadings. So that is that will be more engaging. However, if you just from the beginning to the end, all people can see is just paragraphs from one paragraph to another, from the beginning to the end, no subheadings, then they will lose a lot of points or facts they would have read, because when you don't retain them, they leave and go and read another, other write-ups, whereas they are key facts and important points that are buried within, but with subheadings, then you bring out such key points and the facts. So that is about paragraphing, building paragraphs. Then the next one is conversational writing style. I want to believe, Sada Saib, I'm still within time.
Yes, sir, like 10 more minutes.
Okay, inshallah, Aziz. Yes,
right,
it's also the final leg of the presentation. We have conversational writing style. In conversational writing style, the key is to be approachable, relatable, and engaging. It is all about making your readers feel like they are having a conversation with you. Let me quickly note that in the conversational writing style, one has to be very careful regarding the use of conversational writing style in relation to the particular topic or issue that one wants to discuss. This is because, as we will find out, conversational writing style is more or less informal. And so when we are dealing with extremely formal issues, then if we want to use conversational writing style, then it should be that we have gained the mastery or the mastery of use of conversational writing style before we can use that and use them effectively and successfully. For example, as far as MASQ, Muslim Writers Guild of Nigeria is concerned, for example, the objective of MASQ are quite clear. We want to project the message of Islam. We want to convey it, and we also defend the cause of Islam. And so, in many cases, this could be a formal engagement. In writing. However, that doesn't mean that there are no areas that are informal that we can engage. Using conversational writing style. For example, when you are dealing with topics that relate to life and society, topics on contemporary issues, on current affairs, that relate to Islam, topics of relevance to Islam, to the nation, and so on, that deals with a marriage and, individual lives, personal lives, private lives, and also even communal lives, and so on. In conveying this to the people, especially youth-focused issues, when you use conversational writing style, then you hit. The message will be effectively passed to the youth, for instance. And so it is. But when you want to deal with issues like that are of theological dimensions or jurisprudential dimensions, then you have to be careful in the way you use conversational writing style to pass it. But if you have gained mastery of usage of conversational writing style, then that will be quite beautiful. So here are some tips to help you achieve that. Use contractions like instead of I am. Make your writing sound more relaxed and conversational. 2, be informal when appropriate, as I've explained before. When appropriate, then you have to use, you have to be informal, particularly under the usage of conversational writing style. Depending on your audience and purpose, you can use colloquial language, slang, or everyday expressions to create a friendly tone, especially nowadays that many people, they don't read. But I think the fact is that it is not that many people are not reading. Many are reading every day. Now and then you see many people holding their handsets. They are reading things on there. But the fact is that what they are reading is different from what we intend or we want them to be reading. For example, when we say people are not reading, we mean that maybe they are not reading religious stuff, they are not reading academic stuff, and so on. But actually, many people are reading on their handset. They are reading, a lot of things. But how so relevant are the things? That is another question. That is what is important. So next is use everyday language. Avoid jargon and overly formal language that might make your writing sound stiff or robotic. I think that is also quite straightforward. So keep it concise. Conversational writing doesn't mean rambling on. Keep your sentences and paragraphs short and to the point. Use rhetorical questions, asking questions like, have you ever done this? Have you ever been to so and so place? Have you ever been to Mubarak mosque in the United Kingdom? Then the reader will begin to imagine what is in Mubarak mosque in Islamabad, UK. They will want to search about that and also feel they should visit the mosque. Or what if, trying to inject curiosity in the minds of the readers. When you ask question that what if, then they begin to be curious of what follows or what you want them to interrogate. All these rhetorical questions can engage your reader and make them feel like they are part of the conversation. When you are using conversational writing style, you can actually make that possible. And in the Holy Quran, we see in many places where Allah himself has used rhetorical questions. Show your personality. Inject your writing with your own voice, humor, and perspective to make it feel more authentic and relatable. Sometimes some people, they have that quality that when you are reading their write-ups, you feel their personality, you feel their presence in their words, in their sentences and the paragraphs, in the message they convey to you, all by the use of their conversation, by the conversational style they have injected into their writing. And then we have use active voice. I think I've also spoken about that before under a sentence. Using active voice makes your writing more engaging and easier to read. Then read aloud. Reading your writing aloud can help you identify areas that sound unnatural or awkward. This is a personal exercise that you can engage in personally as you write your as you have your writing in front of you. Read it to yourself, listen to yourself. How do you sound? Do you sound powerful, inspiring, and also objective or not? So you can discover that by yourself and can quickly correct, make corrections. Improve the quality of your writing. So we have here some additional tips, and we have just 4 here. That is, read widely, read different writing styles to develop your own. Read and read various, when you read the writings of the Promised Messiah, you will discover that he has not just one style, several styles. Those who have read Arabic write-ups of the Promised Messiah, they would know that, yes, he has his own specific special style that are so powerful. And the same way, his Urdu writings, they are also, they also reflect a certain style he uses. But when you move from the Promised Messiah's books and you read that of the second Khalifa, Hazrat Muslim Maud radiallahu anhu, and the Promised Messiah Islam, as a Muslim Maud radiallahu anhu, you also discover that he also has his own very special style. And in comparison, in many respects, in the Urdu language writings of the Promised Messiah Islam, you will see powerful and use of language somehow that are difficult somehow to understand. But when you read the writings of the Muslim Maud radiallahu anhu, you will see some expression, a simple use of language, and the objectives of both of them are quite different, but they are quite important and also relevant. So it is not that one writes better than other in this respect. That's not the point I'm hitting at, but that they have different objectives in mind in terms of their audiences, the audiences they have written those books for. So when you read widely, you'll be able to discover very different styles and see the one you can use in shaping your own style. Then practice, write regularly to improve your writing skills. You cannot know how to write until you start writing and writing and writing always. So the fact is, you have 3 points to note. One is right, second is right, and third is right. So write, and write to become a good writer. Next is edit. Review and edit your work to refine your writing. When you write and you feel you have finished writing, don't quickly submit to the editors. Try to read it again, review it again. You will discover that the more you review, the more you have things, you discover some things to be corrected and areas to be improved on. So don't be rushed, and don't rush to submit your articles for publications. Try to read it, because at the end, in the final analysis, it will pay for you. It will be to your own benefit, because when you write something and there are a lot to be edited there, the editors will feel discouraged, and they will just push your write-ups aside and try to focus on other. And this may take many days before they can complete the editing your write-up. And so you have to ensure that you properly edit your own write-up. And sometimes you cannot properly edit your own write-up, because there are some things you will never discover by yourself. But when you just pass it to somebody close to you to assist you to look into it, that also can be of a great help for you before you eventually, you finally submit it for a publication. So last is feedback. Get feedback from others. Let them share their thoughts about your write-ups with you. This will not only be encouraging, but it will also give you some sense of responsibility to yourself to know the areas you have to improve on in your writing capacity and delivery. Sadar Saib, Jazakallah Khair, and respected members of MASQ-Nigeria, and everyone who has also joined this program, Jazakallah Khair, for listening to this humble one, and also what Allah has enabled me to share with you of thoughts on this subject. Jazakallah Khair once again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A big thank you to Al-Hafiz Yunus Amata for that insightful presentation on effective writing. And now that we have learned how sentences and paragraphs build the foundation of writing, let us explore another critical aspect of writing, how to evoke emotions through poetry. Malam Abbas Adaji Saab will guide us through this fascinating process, and join me as I call on our respected lecturer, Malam Abbas Adaji, to take us through emotion to expression, a practical guide to writing poetry. Bismillah, sir. Jazakumullah.
Jazakallahu khairan ahsana jazahan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
So I would like to share my screen. Can I request that you make me a co-host to facilitate this? Would like to thank
right away, sir.
Okay, yeah, Jazakallah. Would like to thank respected Hafiz Yunus Amata Saib for your very detailed lecture. I'm sure that the topic is something that can be taught as a full course in a university, but you've done so well to take us through these, fundamentals within a short time frame. So thank you so much for that. So can I confirm that I can now share my screen? It's telling me the host isn't allowing sharing for this meeting. Okay, if that is the case, do I have to send the slides to the Qadri Sahab then?
Yes, sir. Probably we'll do that just to manage our time very effectively, sir.
Okay. In the meantime, I would get on to speak about the topic, and I will then quickly share the slides with Rola Qadri Sahab, so we can save some time. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you once again. Permit me to leverage the existing protocol that has been established by respected Sadar Saab. Jazakallah khairan, ahsan jazahan, respected Sadar Saab, for taking out time to join this session and for accepting to be our chairman. You've been heavily supportive, so we appreciate your support for MASQ. May Allah continue to strengthen you. So once again, I want to thank respected Hafiz Saab. I think Hafiz Saab has done a very good job in terms of laying the foundation for this, because there are commonalities between the general writing, which is often termed as prose, and writing in poetical using poetical style. Okay, I think I can now share my screen. Excellent. Okay, so just a moment, allow me to do that. So that the conversation can be easy to manage. This would not be, would not take a lot of time as well, just as Hafiz had excellently managed the time. I think I would throw the same line just to ensure that we'll get to the meat of the conversation, and we can then reflect as much as possible. Not sure what's going on. Okay, let me just show my entire screen. Then I can. Okay, can you confirm that you can see the screen just before I go on?
Yes, sir. You can see your screen,
Yes,
sir.
sir, we can.
Okay, excellent. Jazakallah khairan for confirming. I'm going to be discussing emotion to expression, a practical guide to writing poetry. You know, poetry is one form of writing that, caught my attention many, many years ago because of the special license you have, which we often call a poetic license, in the way you use words, in the way you communicate, in the way you express feelings, thoughts, ideas. So I'd fallen in love with poetry a while back. So it's really a pleasure to want to speak about poetry writing. So very quickly, we'll just go through the basics of poetry, then speak to the fundamentals of writing poetry. And at the end of the day, the goal is to have us, members of MASQ and other people present on the call to then voice our words or word our voices, right? So there'll be some practice, right? I'll just give a very straightforward expression, and we will have you, respected poets in the house, to then, versify these words, in using your poetic imagination and creativity. So, the world of poetry allows for a lot of imagination and creativity. It allows you to be a child. There's no boundary to how you can think, to how you can imagine, to how you can express yourself. It allows you to dig deep into your emotive, repertoire, so that you allow your expressions to direct the way you communicate your ideas, your thoughts, your feelings, so that it also invokes some kind of response in the readers, right? So I'm sure a whole lot of us are familiar with a lot of poems that we've read while we were children or young people, teenagers. And some others, have read poems or have listened to poems, poetry, rendering, because there have been some evolution in the heart of poem writing or poetry over the centuries. So what is poetry? It's a form of literature. Don't forget, there are two major, forms of literature when it comes to writing. You have the prose or the poetry. The prose is, all of what Hafiz Saab discussed earlier. They centrally apply to prose and also apply to poetry. But a slight difference between, a prose and a poetry, whereas a prose can be written in paragraphs, poetries are written in lines and stanzas, right? So it's in the form, it's in the structure, it's in the diction, it's in the rhythm, it's in the, so there are a lot of commonalities, there are a lot of overlap where you can even deploy a mix, because there are very, very creative writers who have embedded poetry in prose and prose in poetry. So you have that, what we often refer to as poetic license. You can use words. You are a wordsmith where you are a poet. Now, being a prose writer, you also have that freedom of creative writing. It's possible because, again, if you're a playwright, for example, you can write stories, whether you've seen some of the works of, our revered Nobel laureate, Professor Wole Soyinka. You would see that in some of his work, you have this, mixture, a sort of a tapestry of prose and poetry infused into each other in a way that creates a mosaic of, highly intelligent way of using words to evoke emotion, to sort of arouse, feelings, and, present some form of imagery that takes you from the real world that you have to a different world of imagination that allows you to think that you're having a different form of conversation or interaction, beyond what is, peculiar to the ethereal body. So poetry allows you to choose words carefully. Words can be used in ways that have not been used before to convey meaning in a more reflective and deeper way, right? It allows to evoke emotions, evoke ideas. It brings you a different from experience, because with poetry as well, if you have lyrical poetry, lyrical poems, you tend to see that you could be tapping your feet, tapping your hand, dangling your hair, your head, you know, whistling away because of the rhythm created by certain words. The sound bite of spoken poetry can be so enchanting sometimes. And you will see that a form of poetry is the panegyrics that we often read in Yoruba land or other kind of culture, what we call oriki. It's the main the English version is what they call panegyrics. So it's a form of poetry where people, get to hear a whole lot about their ancestral, attributes. And this can, swell up a lot of emotion in their head, and you see what happens. In fact, music is a different form of poetry where you have a lot of rhymes, in the way these musicians use words. And it often invokes a lot of feelings, tappings, dancing, and the likes. So, it's a form, it's an artistic form of expression. But when we talk about poetry, in the sense that we're talking about it under MASQ, it's a different objective, right? It's a different objective. And this is why when we talk about poetry under MASQ, we're focusing more on how we want to use a different form of communication, to express ideas, thoughts, ideologies, philosophies in a way that can, enchant or attract a whole lot of people who may not easily find it easy to read long prose. Now, you would admit that sometimes some people are scared of reading. When they see a full sentence, they're tired. But because of the structure of poems, very short, concise, the rhythm, the flow, the lines, the stanzas, the meaning, it's not so difficult to appreciate the thing that is being communicated via poems compared to prose, right? And because, some things can be forgiven even when you're writing a poem, in terms of some mechanics and grammar. These are not typically, taken lightly when you're looking at the prose. And this is why poetry, in fact, in more recent time, when you now have a lot of spoken poetry going on, is so very enthralling to a lot of people who would spend time to listen to poems, who can versify their thoughts, their emotions in a way that would then evoke a lot of thinking, reflection, in other people that listen to them. Now, just to highlight, because we're going over the basics, there are, various characteristics of poetry. This is just, a very crash course, so nothing so detailed as though you're taking a course in classical poetry. But one of the, some of the characteristics of poetry involves the use of figurative language. So you see the example from even the Promised Messiah, alayhi salatu wasalam. Some of the poems the Promised Messiah, alayhi salam, wrote in praise of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where, the Promised Messiah, alayhi salatu wasalam, had referred to the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallam as, it described him, min badri levi asbani, that moon of Badri. It described the prophet as a moon, use various figurative language to describe the Prophet Muhammad sallam. Ya aina faydillah. It described the Prophet sallam as in a fountain from the ocean of Allah, ocean of blessings, ocean of mercies of Allah. These are figurative languages. The Prophet sallam is not a fountain. It was a person, but those figurative language help us, to appreciate the qualities of the Prophet, based on some of the physical materials, the physical things, the physical resources that we're accustomed to, the beauties of those things, the essence of those things, the significance of those things. You then make comparison with the characteristics of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, just to convey meaning. So for someone who loves to see fountain, who enjoys sitting around fountain and, enjoys the benefit and essence of a fountain, would appreciate that, description of a fountain and, bringing that description of someone who you so much love with, something that is cherished by another person, and that brings some sort of connection. That's what poetry does. It brings a lot of connection. We even have in the lifetime of Muhammad Sallallahu, you have someone who had also, Hazrat Hassan bin Basri, who was also the poet of the Prophet Sallallahu, who would recite various interesting poems. You will see example of a poem such as وَضَمَّ إِلَهُ اسْمَ النَّبِيِّ لَاسْمِهِ إِذَا قِيلَ الْمُؤَذِّنُ فِي الْخَمْسِ مُؤَذِّنُ. You see an example. No, that's not the one I want to recite. No, I would remember the poem later, but there's a particular poem by Hazrat Hassan bin Basri that described the Prophet Sallallahu, speaking about the very elevated position of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu, وَأَجْمَلَ مِنْكَ لَمْ تَرَ قَطُّ عَيْنِي وَأَفْضَلُ مِنْكَ لَمْ تَلِدِ النِّسَاءُ وَأَجْمَلُ مِنْكَ لَمْ تَرَ قَطُّ عَيْنٍ. No eyes have beheld anyone more beautiful than you. وَأَفْضَلُ مِنْكَ لَمْ تَلِدِ النِّسَاءُ. That no woman has ever given birth to anyone that has honor comparable to yours. خُلِقْتَ مُبَرَّأً مِنْ كُلِّ عَيْبٍ. You have been created free of all sort of smear of deficiencies. كَأَنَّكَ خُلِقْتَ كَمَا تَشَاءُ. As though you've been created by your own wish, as the way you wish God to create you. You will see this sense of figurative, expression, deepening connection with, the things that people are accustomed to just to describe the elevated status of Muhammad Sallallahu. And you see the sound bite as well. وَأَجْمَلُ مِنْكَ لَمْ تَرَ قَطُّ عَيْنٍ وَأَفْضَلُ مِنْكَ لَمْ تَلِدِ النِّسَاءُ خُلِقْتَ مُبَرَّأً مِنْ كُلِّ عَيْبٍ كَأَنَّكَ خُلِقْتَ كَمَا تَشَاءُ. So you see the sound devices, the rhythm, the rhyme, the assonance, the alliteration. These are various devices that are often employed when you, verse your thought, using poetic, styles. Poem is also meant to evoke emotion, and that's why you see even the qasida of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam that say faqal wara bi kamalihi wa jamalihi wa jananihi. You see that this tells you that this person is speaking from a place of emotion, right? Qawmun ra'aka wa qawmun ukhbirat. Some people saw you, some people only heard the news, of your emergence. Now, what does that do to people who saw the Prophet? What does that do to people who did not see the Prophet? Some people saw the Prophet. Look at how very beautiful it was to be in the circle of the Prophet, but a whole lot of us didn't see the Prophet. Now, if someone were to think deeply about this will bring you to feel like, wow, would that be I was one of those that were present during the lifetime of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Some people only heard of your news. That was meant to drive some real emotional, impact on the people who listen to the poem. And it tells you about the impact that had, how very desirous of the writer to have been one of those who lived at the time of Muhammad Sallallahu, right? And the imagery it creates as well, the structure. And of course, like I said earlier, one of the beauty of poems is also the fact that it's concise, shorter lines, and it is in stanzas. So you can read very quickly, your eyes can move very quickly, whether it is in Arabic or even in English. Of course, I don't know any other language as such, or maybe a bit of French that I'm familiar with. You tend to see that the shortness of the lines and the stanzas of poems, makes it really, really attractive. And that's why you have different forms of poems. You have sonnets and 14-line poems, and you have rhymes. The Japanese have what you call the haikus, 17 syllables in 5/7/5 pattern. You have limericks, there are different forms of poetry. You have satirical, comedic poems, employing different rhymes, as well. Rhymes are and when you look at even the way the Quran is written, and this is why some people, had even said that the Quran is a poem, right? They call the Prophet ﷺ that is a poet. The Prophet ﷺ had been referred to as a poet, and which is what the Quran, debunked, that this is not poetry, right? So, and you also have free verse, where you choose not to, fit into any form. You can choose whatever style. You want to write 4 stanzas first, then write 2, then another 4, or you want to write 4-3-2 or 2-3-4. You can choose your freestyle and write. So that freedom is what we call the poetic license. And this is why some people, want to like poetry compared to prose, because of that, little freedom that you tend to have to express yourself, choose your words. Hate words, you become an epulator, right? Someone who loves words a lot. Your words, when you write poems, and of course in prose, you can have denotative meaning, you can have connotative meanings. However, in poetry, you could create a different form of meaning from the words, the use of words. You could even, join 2 words together to create new meanings. And this is allowable when you write, poems. And, this is one of the beauties of poetry. Now, very quickly, we go into the fundamentals of writing poetry, from expressions to inspirations. Now, here is where I'll just quickly go through 5 M's of poetry writing. Now, the first one is your message. You don't write poems just because you have some free-flowing verses or some words you want to make rhymes with. You have to start with a message, right? Anytime we read the qasida, we say, هذه قصيدة لمحسس الجماعة الأحمدية في مدح خاتم النبيين. في مدح, the qasida was, written for one purpose. Why? Praise Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when you're writing poem, you don't just write. I mean, sometimes you are very creative. You have a list of words you want to make rhymes with. Don't be focused on the rhymes, on the sound, on the rhythm, on the assonance, on the alliteration. Rather, the starting point of writing any poem, and which is going to be acceptable by MASQ, has to be the message. Don't forget that MASQ exists for a purpose. Majlis Ansar Sultan al-Qalam. We exist for that purpose, to support the dissemination of the message of the promised Messiah, alayhi salatu wasalam, for the revival of our world that is neck deep in delusion, right? In, spiritual torpor. Now, the message has to be at the heart of your poem. When we write poem, under MASQ, right? It's important, very, very important, right? So it means that, sorry, somebody said audio is lost. I hope that is not the case for everyone.
At all, sir. We can hear you clearly.
Okay, excellent. So your message is important. Now, when you get your message, then you have to worry as to the meaning. The meaning. Now, sometimes we have the right message, but we may not communicate this message in a way that allows people to appreciate the message. And which is why these 5 M's really do not just only apply to poems or poetry writing, they also fit in well when you look at prose or, all aspects of writing. Now you think about your meaning. Now you may have a message, but you also have to be clear as to why you need to communicate that message. Now, when you understand the meaning that you want to really communicate, because you could be communicating a message that you think you're communicating, but it could have a different meaning to other people if you are not careful about your word choices or how you communicate the message. And Afisab mentioned about, sometimes, we tend to want to use words because they sound fanciful. Your word choice, is really important when you want to pass across the right meaning. And I invite you to study the poems of the Prophet Muhammad, particularly the Qasida that we are so used to. And if you look at the verses of the words, you see that there's a meaning underpinning each of the verses. There's a message, there's a meaning, right? The meaning is what brings about the transformation. You can pass a message and people will say, what's the meaning of this? So you must be intentional about the meaning. Now, because of time, I move on very quickly to the next one. Oh, this thing is going back. What's going on? Okay. No, we're missing something. Okay. Sorry, I think there's a challenge with the slide. I'm not sure. Okay, yeah, very good. Now, the medium, right? How do you communicate the poem? How do you effectively communicate the meaning? Because how you communicate is very important. Now, under MASQ, currently, what we have is people write poems and submit, and we published it on a website and also on various media. But we've also opened up the avenue for people, and we're looking to test run this, where people can voice their poems, right? So you have a poem that you have written. You can also voice your poem, right? Because again, the world we are now, sometimes, people struggle to read, but oftentimes, there are also opportunities for people to listen to poems, highly inspiring poems, and in this case, you can voice your poem. So we are currently exploring that avenue to also have people voice their poems. And you'll see that sometimes before we start some programs, we sort of have some, different, poems that are, chanted, played via, the audio visual or even online. So maybe in future, while we are waiting for other people, we could be, playing some of the poems that have been chanted by members of MASQ. That's a medium. So you can write, you can now speak. So there are even all over the world, there are spoken word, contests, so it's not a joke any longer that people have evolved from just writing poetry to also voicing their poems. And now, if you want to voice, there are different ways of writing. There are different forms of writing poems. You have the lyrical poetry where it's almost looking like you're singing a song. There are rhymes, there are sounds, the meters are calculated, right? And they tend to have a very strong impact. Then you also have narrative poetry. You have a story you want to tell, and you don't want to tell the story using the normal prose approach. And so you definitely have the opportunity to narrate story. And I've seen Wole Soyinka and some writers also do the same. You've seen the likes of Shakespeare and others also do the same when it comes to voicing and poetry. Okay, so someone is also saying that the audio is lost. I'm not sure if that is from my hand. If you can confirm.
The network of the person, please.
Okay, so then you have comical poetry. There are people, who are now in the comic world. They also want to communicate, interesting ideas in a comical way. There are satirical poetry. People want to communicate. In fact, in a political circle, you have a lot of satires go on. So people can communicate a lot of, things in a very satirical approach. So satirical poetry is another one. Then you have, an emergent area of micro poetry, because you understand that a lot of people don't want to, read long lines. So you decide to do 4 verses and you communicate very powerful, ideas through these small verses. And this is what we call micro poetry. So these are the different modes. There are a whole lot more, but for the benefit of time, we just want to focus on these at this point in time. So all of these elements can be used, when it comes to writing poetry. Finally, there's the mechanics. There's the mechanics. Afisab mentioned punctuations. Punctuations are critical. Comma, a full stop, and ellipsis. and actually make a whole lot of difference in the meanings of your poems, right? As I noted earlier, figurative expressions are very critical. When you look at Ya Bahar Fadl Mun'imil Manani, Ya Bahar, the immensity, and this is from the poems of Prince Isaiah, Ya Bahar Fadl, the Prophet ﷺ is comparing the extent of the grace of Allah to the immensity of an ocean. For us to understand God is difficult, but this sort of imagery helps us to appreciate the extent of the grace of Allah, right? Ya Bahr Fadl, the immensity of the grace of Allah is as big, of not even bigger than the ocean. And you see this example in the Quran as well, where Allah has said that if you were to write the word of Allah, bring 7 seas, 7 oceans, the word of Allah will still remain. You see, in fact, a whole lot around poetry, you will find a whole lot of beautiful techniques, styles, forms around writing poetry, within the Holy Quran. The style, talk about style, you find the Quran in all of style. Look at Surah Taha, look at Surah Duha. You look at all these surah, you see rhythm, you see imagery, you see style. Who is the better person in writing poems and poetry than Allah? The greatest book that has ever existed and will continue to ever exist is the Quran. So when you talk about prose, you see the different styles. Allah has, look at Juz Amma. You see a lot of Juz Amma has a lot of rhythm. Look at Surah Al-Rahman. The nunation at the end of each verse. You see the repetition of that. That's a style on its own. So you can employ these mechanics in the way you write your own poems. A particular line or a verse or a stanza that you keep repeating that keeps getting to the meaning. Because don't forget, you have a message, you have a meaning, right? You have a message, you have a meaning. So you can repeat these styles. You use the same word, use the same ending, the same sound. You can change a whole lot of. We don't have a lot of time, but hopefully in future we'll have the opportunity to be able to do a lot of exercises. That would get us into the heart of writing poems. That are very emotive and will bring a whole lot of imagery. Have a lot of influence, strong influence. When we communicate with people. So anyone can be a poet. You just need to start writing poems. You become something by doing. You don't become by wishing. And this is where I will end the presentation. I would really like for us to practice some lines, but because of time, I would want to skip that with the permission of the chairman, so that we can attend to questions if you have any questions. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So thank you for those wonderful insights, Malam Abbas Adaji Saab. So we are running a bit short of time. So with the permission of the respected Sada Saab, who is the chairman of this event, we will now take a few minutes before we move on to our next. So if you have questions, let us use the emoji for raising up our hands, and then the respected chairman will take that or coordinate that. Call on anyone to ask his or her question. Jazakumullah khairan.
It looks like we have someone who has raised a hand.
Yes, sir.
Wa
alaikum salam to barakatuh, sir. I don't know if it is my network.
I lost the network for a moment. Is it as Malam Abbas has
Malam Abbas has wrapped up his presentation, sir.
Oh, okay, that's fine. So I think at that moment when
he submitted the request to your table,
I had to reconnect.
He submitted a request to your table.
You submitted the request?
Yes, sir. He probably will request again, and then you grant the permission, sir.
No, sir, I was saying that understanding that time is far spent, that there was a practical session that I wanted us to have, but I think it's better we skip that so that we can have questions and answer with your kind permission.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Not a problem. So right. That means we can proceed to question and answer now, right? So yes, I can give the audience an opportunity. All right. So, Blakim, sir, let's myself and you coordinate the question and answer so that we can kindly look at those who raise their hands and call them after the interviews. So I think we should allow everyone who also ask questions to answer questions. Then when they are asking their question, they can specifically mention which of our speakers they would like to answer the question, so that by the time all the questions are fully asked, they can speak on them one after the other. So, respected audience, so we would like to have questions from you, and some of us may also make comments that can also add value to the submissions of two respected scholars as well. So I think it's only Sister Khadija that is raising her hand now. Maybe Sister Khadija, please kindly go ahead. Exactly.
That's right, sir. Also, if we have some people who have questions, they can submit it through the chat box. You can also make use of the chat room to submit our questions for our lecturers. So we have two people now, respected Sarah, sir.
Yes, I can see that. So Sister Khadija can proceed. She raised her first.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yes, I think she's about to do that.
All right. So may I proceed now, sir?
Yes, ma. Yes.
Okay. I want to say big jazakumullah khairan for the organizers of this amazing program and the lecturer, the speaker. That was really an insightful one, and I've really gained a lot. Actually, I am a poet actually, but I've been kind of inconsistent these days. So I would say this webinar actually spurred my interest more to continue, because I basically write for Islamic poems at this moment. So I want to say big jazakumullah khairan for organizing this, and may Allah reward you with goodness on every harf that comes out. And I want to ask that you mentioned like there is like a platform. I don't know if I should call it a platform that we can submit our poems, some of that for reviews, and perhaps from that we can get more encouraged to write and get reviews, so that we can as well grow in writing and preaching more about Islam and everything like that. So I really want to know how we can get to get that platform, or yes, how we can get to submit and make more progress in writing poems. Jazakumullahu khairan, sir.
Barakallahu lakum. Madam Abdul Qadri sir, please put our email in the chat box so that anyone who wishes to write poems or any article can submit their entries into that email, or even you can put other contact details there so that people can get in touch with us. Jazakumullah khairan, Sister Khadija.
All right, Jazakallah khairan. Now that's for the response.
So, but Tijani Abdullah, and go ahead with a question or comment.
Alaikum Councillor Barakatuh. Yes, sir. I want to humbly say, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Please go ahead with your question.
Yes, sir. I want to humbly firstly say that Jazakumullah khairan to our two lecturers and the organizers of this program. My question goes to Hafiz Yunus Amatayo Sahib. I humbly request me a guide because I noticed that, and I also find it difficult. Anytime I finished writing an article or I stumble across a topic, for me myself to be able to channel, arrange the words, I always find it difficult. Anytime I finish writing, read again, rearrange the words again, I submit it. After submission, I always think that there ought to be a feedback that what I have written is not what's expected or anything regarding the write-up I have written. Since I've started writing, I don't see any feedback on it except once. So the difficulty I do face is that anytime I finish writing, I always think myself, is this thing I'm writing, is it up to what I have in mind? After writing it, I don't always see anyone to guide me or to tell me that what I've written is okay or I can put more effort in this aspect. So I humbly request Hafiz Yunus Amatayo Sahib to please guide me on this. Assalamu alaikum salam.
Yeah, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yeah, you see, every writer or accomplished writer has passed through certain level, and this particular level you've just described here, it's just one of those levels. Anybody you may be seen as an accomplished writer has absolutely passed through that particular level at a point in time. What is important is consistency. You have to be consistent in your writing. You have to continue to submit and not minding whether it is published or not. Of course, it will be a matter of great concern to you that your articles are not published, or maybe you don't even get any response. But the fact is that that should not discourage you. You have to continue to write, because the more you write, the more you know how to write, and the more you write better. My personal examples, for example, in decades back when I started writing and submitting articles for publication on the newspapers, Nigerian national newspapers, and also Jamaat media platform, the Review of Legions and others. Most of them were not published. In fact, for years they were not published, and but I continued to write and write. But at the time, then they started publishing them, and sometimes they will reply, they will explain why it will not be published because of this reason or that reason. Others, they will reject it. Others, they published, and that was how it started. So from this personal experience, and I know from experiences of many other writers, there is always level, there is always a stage for everything. I mean, the ladder you climb in life, in the journey of life, in the journey of becoming a good writer, you pass through all this. So what is important is for you to continue to learn and learn more and more skills of writing. And as you learn the skills, you also try to continue to write and write so that you can know how to write. So you share with people you believe they are also into the business of writing. They will tell you, so especially editors or maybe friends who know how to write, when they help you to edit or review your write-ups, they also try to accompany that with comments of areas where their corrections are needed. And when they pass it back to you, you look through those highlighted places for your attention, and you improve upon that. And secondly, you should also try to look at, if you say they are not, people are not, platforms are not publishing your write-ups, you should sit down and ask your question. The other time I was saying that you should ask the question of what to write and also when to write. Sometimes you have to identify the particular topics of relevance to your people, to your community, to your country. You understand? There's what is called in journalism, there's what is called Afghanistanism. When you are a newspaper or a TV channel, or people are just focusing on publishing certain issues, or broadcasting certain issues that are not of geographical relevance to that particular country or community, then it is Afghanistanism. They coined this term during those early 2000, when issue of U.S. and Afghanistan war. And now and then you see many newspapers publishing about Afghanistan. So it became so much that even people, they lost there's no psychological connection between where they belong to and Afghanistan. And you are bringing news of Afghanistan to them. And that's why they came up with that term of Afghanistanism. So you should look at what are you writing about. Is it issues or topics that are of relevance to your people in your locality, in your country? If you write about things that concern them, then that particular media house or media outlet or platform, they will want to publish your write-up. But if you have written on issues that are not so relevant, then they may not publish it. So you have to consider the topics of of relevance, of importance to your time, to your place, and so on. Something can happen in Pakistan. It will be of psychological relevance to Ahmadis in Nigeria. And so if you submit something, an article on that thing that happened in Pakistan, you will see that Ahmadi platform will readily publish it for you. But something can happen in Nigeria here. In Nigeria, something can happen, and you may write on something and submit it to Nigeria here, but because it is not relevant to Nigeria, they may not publish it. So all these are things you should also consider as well. Jazakallah khair. I hope I have touched on your questions as you intended.
We have who has raised up his hand. Alpha was, please go ahead with your question. The participant with the name Alpha was, please, you can go ahead to unmute yourself and ask your question. And if the person is not available, we have Abdul Salam Abdul Rafiq. You can please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Jazakumullah khairan to our lecturers. My question can be answered by either of our lecturers. It's about the use of AI. That to what extent can we explore the use of AI in our writings? It's very possible for me to even think of a topic now and just tell AI that write this number of paragraphs for me on this topic, and it's going to generate it, even though it might not be exactly as maybe I would have written myself or the kind of pattern I want it to follow, but at least it's going to generate it. But is it ideal? to show. I just want to know to what extent can we explore the use of AI in our writings? So
I thought Hafiz Yunusab would want to take that, and I would chime in as necessary. Hafiz Sab.
Yes, I'm also of the thought that okay, you will take on that, okay? So,
Okay. So let me just speak to that. I mean, the use of AI is encouraged because it has some very useful efficiencies in terms of researching time, brainstorming. And I think that's where we should really use AI to brainstorm, to know, because it can draw on resources that may take you a lot of time if you're going to want to go and do that on your own. So it's rather good for brainstorming to generate high-level ideas or pointers to areas for exploration rather than relying on it to do the critical thinking of your writing. So it's important. It's really, really important, that you think around the fact that if you use AI, if as a surrogate thinker, don't forget that AI relies on what is publicly available. What is publicly available does not necessarily mean, what is correct is out there. So many people may, don't forget that people who also disingenuously put forward or, put a lot of ideas out there just to corrupt the right, philosophies, the right ideology. And therefore, AI will just bring everything together without necessarily having that skill to discriminate between what is right and what is wrong. So there's a lot of pitfall in just regurgitating what the AI has produced, because there's a way that you gradually get lazy mentally when AI begins to do some of these things for you. So I would say that AI is good for brainstorming, just to have very high level ideas to the direction of what you want to write, but it should not be, the primary tool for your writing. Don't forget that there's a concept in biology we call the Lamarck's theory of use and disuse. It's one of the evolutionary, theories that, stipulates that the body parts that you use tend to get stronger, better developed, and will not go into extinct. But the body part that you seldomly use, that you don't use well enough, will not be strong, and over time may go extinct, of course, in biological terms. So the whole idea is, if you don't use your own brain really well and you rely so much on AI to do a whole lot for you, we will get the blessing. Because don't forget that whatever we do in this path is not just for doing sake. There's also the spiritual connection in terms of, do you want AI to share part of the blessing? Because if AI has done the work, AI deserves the reward. AI deserves the ladder, right? So again, maybe I don't know, Allah knows best how to divide the reward. But again, that in sentient being, AI deserves a lot of praise. وَيُحِبُّونَ أَن يُحْمَدُوا بِمَا لَمْ يَفْعَلُوا. That's a verse of the Quran, that those people who love to be praised for what they did not actually do. So if you write an article and people praise it, oh, it's good, but you know yourself, you only put a prompt. The writing of the article was done by AI, and you get praised for it. So you are almost towing the line of those who love to be praised for what they did not do. And this is something that is negative, from the context of the Quran. So it's encouraged that we don't lose the strength of our mind because of the efficiencies that AI will bring. Rather, we can use them as a tool to enhance our efficiencies and to be more effective writers by brainstorming, having a very good universe of ideas that we want to explore. But when it comes to the real writing, to develop arguments, to apply critical thinking, don't forget, AI cannot even do certain research when you have to read some, Arabic text and the likes. that are not even digitalized, because there are a whole volume of knowledge that are not digitalized. And therefore, AI will not have access to these, which is why, you may need to go to libraries and do this research, go to, primary sources to get research done and to do your writing. AI is good for prompting, brainstorming, but should not be your surrogate thinker, and writer. So I'll keep it at that. I hope that is useful.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair, Brother Basai. I think quite a profound answer you have given there. Let me just add a little to that, and particularly refer the questioner and all of us also to the response which Hazrat Khalifatul Masih V, Ayadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasir Aziz, has also given to this particular question, particularly when a team of the alislam.org team, they came to him and also presented this particular question to him, that to what extent should they make use of AI in presentation and also in composition of writing and so on. And as Khalifatu Masih, Ayadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasir al-Aziz said that, of course, it is something that is invented by human beings for the benefit of human beings, no doubt about that. But he said, he particularly directed the team, and of course, by extension, all of us, that we should not completely rely on whatever we have given to us by AI. We should rather, when we get those things, we should look into them critically and try to correct whatever that may be wrong in the answers AI has given to us. But for example, he said we are to reform Islamic teachings that have been misrepresented. Now, if we ask AI a question regarding certain teaching of Islam, and what AI has gathered and presented to us are those misconceptions which other Muslims have, pushed out there, and it's package it and present it to us as answer to our question. Uzu said that we should not just take, such answers and then present it or publish it. No, we have to critically look at it, also see it. What is wrong there, we have to remove. We also have to, correct things and also present it, repackage it entirely. And that shows that what you've said, Abbas Said, what you've just said, that we should not allow AI to be thinking for us, because the human thinking, AI itself is a product of human thinking, human ingenuity, no doubt, but there is limitation, and so where its thinking ends, that is where human thinking still continue and goes further. And therefore, when we can see clearly that the answer it has given to us, they are wrong, then we have to correct it. And secondly, it is the moment you ask AI something, a question on a particular topic, and it gives you that answer, that very moment, you yourself, you would realize that you have not engaged in any critical thinking to discover that answer, and so it will be detrimental to your intellectual development, because by so doing, when you continue like that, you will just discover that you are no more thinking, something else is thinking for you and giving you answers to issues that require thinking, because thinking itself is necessary for the neurological development of human brains. So when you don't engage in thinking, something is thinking for you and giving you answer to questions of life, then that is a problem, and that is where this challenge is. And secondly, we should also realize that of course AI is better than all these search engines, Google and so on, because when you ask Google something, it will just search for the relevant answer and the links to those sources, materials, and give you. But AI would not just give you the links to those answers. it would help you construct the answer itself and present it in a manner that will be so quick, and also so deep that you cannot even imagine. So in this way, you will see that it is taking on the role of human thinking and struggling to get answer to things. So we should just use it in a way that it will just assist us in gathering information. But in terms of presenting, analyzing and reanalyzing those information to arrive at logical conclusions, then it has to be our roles, not the roles of AI. We can only use it as getting materials and also getting understanding of issues, but not to use it as the sort of what we want, the answer, without we ourselves thinking for ourselves to get the answers. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair, Habib. I think there's one more question in the chat box. I think I had mentioned the five M's. The five M's, of poetry. Maybe I should do, and I think when you look at the 5M, they actually answer this question: when writing poetry for reading versus performing spoken words, what are the key things a poet should keep in mind? The 5M's actually, the purpose is served. I already talked about meaning. We talk about the mode, the medium. All of these actually already answers the question. So maybe let's do a game as we round up. Any member of the participant who is able to tell us the 5M, based on the first person to indicate, will get a recharge card. Or maybe let's do 3 people. I know 1 person, because the other person would have known. So 1 person, the first person to indicate and would be able to tell us the 5Ms, will go home with a recharge card of 2,000 naira. So let's have anyone indicate, and person tells us all the 5Ms. We get the person's phone number, the person with the correct answer, and we can send the card over to the person, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. So who is able to tell us the 5Ms? Somebody is raising up his hand. We have not called you. Who is the person? Brother Sulaiman, right? Brother Sulaiman Aminu, okay. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Meaning, message, mode, medium, and mechanics.
Allahu Akbar. So Brother Sulaiman got it right? That's good. So send us your number, send us your phone number, let us know which network, and you'll get your recharge card, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Over to you, Brother Mustafa Saab and respected chairman. I think we've exhausted the question. Maybe if you have comment, because I can see some of our beloved and esteemed honorary members who may wish to have one comment or advice for us or the other before we close out. Over to you. Jazakallah khairan.
All right. Jazakumullah khairan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards all the efforts. Thanks to all the questioners who have made this very engaging. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you as well. So because Maghrib is fast approaching, we would like to entertain guest remark, and looking through the list of participants, I can see that we have just only one honorary member of the Mice and Sons of Column, the person of respected Muallim Qasim Konasab, who would like to have a brief comment from him before we proceed to close the session. Respected Madam Qasim Konasab, please kindly let's have your comments.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
Respected Sarat Sahab and Chairman, respected speakers and brothers Again, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
The time we have spent has been very, very rewarding. And we pray Allah the Almighty continue to bless our facilitators. May Allah continue to enrich their intelligence and memory. We appreciate the entire MASQ for putting this program together. May Allah bless everyone. We hope soon we shall have some other session that will take all of us through some meritorious learning again, inshallah. So jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, sir. Jazakumullah, sir.
Chairman, sir, you can have the next person.
Sorry, you said what? Okay.
I said we can have the next person to take his guest remarks, sir.
Okay. The second person you suggested, right? The person is no longer on the call. So the person is no longer on the call, probably network issue or something. So we'll take the next item of the program, which is a vote of thanks. This is to be done by the Vice Chairman and Chairman of the Seminar Committee, Hafiz Rafiq Alaka. Please, Officer, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Beloved brothers, we want to use this medium to thank everyone who has deemed it fit to be part of this engagement. Respected Sadar Saib, we thank you so much for agreeing to be the chairman of this session. And to our beloved speakers, we really appreciate your time. And I'm sure everybody will agree with me that it's been a very engaging session. We thank all our brothers who were part of the planning committee for this conference. We say Jazakumullah khairan to every one of you, inshallah. We promise to bring on board more engaging sessions like this in future. And to all our brothers and sisters who are part of this engagement today, we say Jazakumullah khairan to all of you, Jazakumullah khairan to everybody who has contributed in one way or the other to the success of this program. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.